So good morning, and thank you for joining me today in this webinar. Today is episode number 3 of our webinar, Boosting Requirements Management Capabilities in Microsoft Word. And we will be speaking today about parsing documents. So why do we need to parse external documents? This is just a brief description of 5 possible scenarios. Of course, you can come out with more scenarios, but what I think of these scenarios is, for instance, attending a tender process where we need to trace to the topics or the requirements in the tender and either derive our system requirements, if we are granted this tender, derive our system requirements from the requirements in the tender, or at least to trace the response of to this tender to the requirements in the tender. Another possibility, because we in this parsing we can parse requirements, but we can parse any other kind of artifact, is to link to goals or high-level objectives coming from a ConOps document or a statement of work. So these kind of goals that should derive or should be traced into either stakeholder requirements or system requirements in our future project. Similarly, when we are given a requirements document from a stakeholder requirements document, of course, we need to derive and trace requirements. More items that can be traced are regulatory items from regulatory bodies, where we can connect either to Word documents or even PDF documents, extract the meaningful blocks from these regulatory documents so that we can, in the verification process, trace our requirements and our verification activities towards these regulatory items to demonstrate that we are complying with this regulation. Other possibilities is to take all the requirements from legacy documents, legacy projects, so that we can reuse or we can do different things on top of those old legacy requirements. So this is all I think, or these are some of the scenarios that I see where we can be needing parsing legacy documents. I have a little poll here. I would like you, if possible, I will give you 1 minute to answer with your experience. So I am demanding here your experience. Remember that all this is fully anonymous. You just scan this QR code that you can see here, or I think one of my colleagues has entered the URL of this poll in the chat system, right? So just follow this link or scan this code, or just open your browser and type slido.com and enter this poll number. And then you will face a poll where I am demanding your experience. So are you normally facing the need of parsing documents during a tender process, or high-level documents, ConOps, statement of works, or requirements from customers, or even your own experience? So there is one more question or possible answer, which is others. If you check others, please use the chat box to tell us which are those other situations you have faced. So I will give you 1 minute to vote. This is live, the result of the poll. So it seems that the most frequent is to deal with standards, regulations, and requirements from customers. Standards now is winning, so this is changing live. Now it's back between requirements and the standards. So this seems that okay, we can revisit this for the final conclusion. I will keep this poll open while I continue with my slides. And now the question is, and now what? So whenever we parse these documents, what can we do with the item that we identify in the parsing? So supposing that this is my document with requirements or regulatory items or whatever, the idea of this parsing is, of course, to first to identify each one of those meaningful blocks. And in this picture, it is represented by this box around the lines. So this is representing that these 2 paragraphs, let's say, are for the first item. This paragraph is the second. This other paragraph is the third. These 3 paragraphs together correspond to the 4th element traced. And this short line here at the beginning is representing that we always, as you will see in the demo, we always provide a label, a unique ID for each one of those items. So once we manage to parse those items, so what can we do with this? Again, these are the possible scenarios that I had described in this slide. Of course, you will face plenty of different situations, but to me, what can we do whenever I parse a document? I can continue adding more and more requirements to the same document. I can proceed to a quality inspection using our tools that some of you know pretty well. We can use the items identified here to verify the system of interest against these requirements, or to trace to other kind of work products like models or tests or risks or whatever, derive other requirements and trace to those new requirements, or transfer from this document to a more, let's say, common requirements management tool, like taking these requirements from this document and moving those requirements to, I don't know, Polarion or Team Center or whatever, transforming those requirements into other kind of products, like using our tools to transform those requirements into models, for instance, or reuse these requirements in a new project. So the good news is that this is, again, just as an example of different scenarios that I have faced in my life. Of course, you will have your own experiences that I will request now, if you are so kind as to provide us with your experience. But the good point, as I said, is that each one of these bubbles in here will be covered in a different episode of this series of webinars. So remember that this is just the third episode out of 10 episodes. We covered adding more requirements in the first episode. We covered the quality inspection in the second, but we will be covering traceability, derivation, transformations, and all this in further episodes of our series of webinars, right? So now I am similarly to what I did before. Now, if you go to your browser, you will see that without having to do anything, you will find that now the poll is different. Now what I'm asking you is this, and now what? So what is what you normally do whenever you parse your document? What is what you normally do? So I give you another minute so that you can go back to your browser. You will face, as I said, the second question of the poll in your browser, and please provide us with your answers. So this is now the live. Wow, it seems that we have three options together. Remember that you can vote for more than one option in this poll. And similarly to the previous case, if you vote for other, please tell us which is your other experience. I hope that this analysis of the quality of the parse requirements is with our tools, with the RQA, I hope. Okay, I keep it open. We can revisit this when we finish the webinar. So, parsing algorithm. So how can we deal with this parsing? Well, I think if you have followed us for the first two episodes, you are a little bit familiar by now with this wizard connection wizard, as I said, where that is shown the first time that you open a document and connect the document to our repository. So if you click on option 4 and open, say yes in here in finding work products, then you will find 4 different possibilities, 4 plus 1 that I will mention later. So the first one is, supposing that in my document, my requirements are already holding an ID, like in this example is something like SYSR plus a number, then I can just say, okay, for every paragraph where at the beginning of the paragraph you find the label SYSR, this is going to be a requirement. So this is the simplest way to parse items from the documents. The second, if you know our knowledge manager tool, is by identifying a cluster, like every sentence containing a modal verb, for instance, will be a requirement for me. This could be another option. Third one is a little bit more sophisticated than the previous one, which is a pattern. You know our notion of pattern, so you can say for every sentence in this document fitting with the pattern. By the way, in this picture, what you find here are full patterns, including condition, system, action, whatever. But you can also name, as you will see in my demo, you can also create a smaller pattern, perhaps with just with the name of a system plus a modal verb, for example. This could be your pattern. So every sentence fitting with this pattern will be identified as a meaningful item in the document. The last way here is a little bit more sophisticated than the textual one, which is by means of a regular expression. Suppose that in your document you have two types of requirements. Some are labeled as system requirements with SYSR, while others are labeled as non-functional requirements, for instance, whatever. So if you have two possible labels, there's no way to do this with the textual option, but providing us with a regular expression as simple as this, for instance, then those both kinds of items will be identified, right? Then in some cases you will find the need of something else, a little bit more power, let's say, in this parsing. So that is why we have enabled this way of providing us a little bit of code to code the way the document is to be parsed. So in which situations you will be facing the need of this additional power? To me, it is when the IDs are not explicit and are not in sequence, because if they are not explicit but you want them in sequence, we can do it very, very easily. So if they are not explicit and not in sequence, you will require a little bit of additional code. Also, when the IDs are depending on other factors like the number of the section or something else, but it is not explicit in front of the requirement, where the scope, the length of the requirement is something that is variable depending on whatever needs, as you will see in my example, or when you need to capture other attributes. In the next version, you will find that capturing other attributes such as nodes or priorities or whatever in next version will be almost automatic, very easy. Now in this version you need a little bit of code for this as well. So in all these situations you will find the need of having additional help with this code, and this is just an example of select documents, regulatory documents in the European Commission, where what you see is in front of the item you just see a 20, but 20 is repeated all over the document. There are plenty of other paragraphs with this very same number. So that's why we identify this item as C1 for chapter 1, A4 for article 4. So it all depends on the section. So this C1 is chapter 1. So chapter 1, article 4, and now item 20. So this is the ID, which is not explicit in front of my item. So that's why we needed a little bit of the help of some code to find to have the proper ID, right? So let's now jump into a short video where we demonstrate these parsing capabilities. Okay, so this is my video. Now the first document is a PDF document coming from the JPL. These are the mission requirements for now famous James Webb Space Telescope. So in this document, what we find are a lot of those mission requirements. All of them are properly labeled with MR and then the number of the requirement. It is not in sequence, the number, but this is not a problem for us. So in order us to parse a PDF document, what we do is remember that the add-in is on top of Word, Microsoft Word. So we have to demand Word to open the PDF file. So I close the PDF, but I open the PDF not with Adobe, but with Word. So now it takes, of course, some seconds for Word to convert the document into Word, and then I will save us not as PDF, but I will save us as proper Word document, right? So I save it, and once it is having a Word format, then I can ask our add-in to connect to the repository, right? So I click on the ribbon in Unity Studio, connect to the repository, And now, since this is the first time I open or connect this document to the repository, then the add-in will show the connection wizard, as I was presenting in my slides. So in this connection wizard, the first point is to establish what is the scope of the search. Do I want to search along the full document, or do I want to restrict to one specific section or two or several sections? So in this case, I know that the mission requirements are only in section 3. So I can click section 3. Automatically, the tool checks all the subsections. And now I say that I want to use the same ID that is coming with the document, which is MR and then a number. And now the important point is, okay, let's parse the content of the document. So since all my requirements are having the explicit label MR at the beginning, so I can say I want all the paragraphs that at the beginning start with MR, and that's all, right? So I click OK, and for this document, which is short document, only 12 pages, the parsing, all this is real time. So the parsing takes literally 2, 3, 4 seconds to parse and to extract, in this case, 252 items, right? Now with these items, you can do, as I mentioned before, whatever you want. You can continue writing more mission requirements in this Word document. Remember, now it is not PDF anymore. You can, you can see the border of each requirement, the ID of each requirement that you cannot modify, by the way, as you know, if you have followed this series of webinars. And of course, you can save, and once you save, you can proceed with tracing, adding additional attributes, whatever you wish, right? So now saving takes some seconds, and that's all, right? So the document is saved. So let's close this document and find our second example. In this case, the document is a little bit less structured than the previous example. This is a kind of statement of work where I don't have requirements. What we have in here are high-level goals for my project. And the bad news is that in this document, there are not explicit labels for my goals. The only thing that we know is that we have some paragraphs in this document that include the name of our systems. In this example, we are using one of our little robots that we have built in the company, which is the temperature warrior. So we have, in our dictionary, we have a cluster called system, including words like temperature warrior or the synonym, which is TW, or even the word system itself, plus another cluster, which is the modal verb shall or will or whatever. So I connect to the repository. I will face the connection wizard. Here we are. Then in the configuration of the label, I can say whatever. There are no labels in the document, so I will come out with this. The tool will proceed with identifying with this goal plus a number. This is just an example, goal 1. And then in the parsing, I cannot use the first option because there is no such ID explicit in the document for the moment. So I go to inclusion patterns, and I pick from our ontology one specific pattern. Instead of just having a full pattern, I will select just a tiny little pattern, which is just having, as I said, the name of a system plus a modal compulsory verb, right? So things like the temperature warrior shall, or the TW will, or the system will be parsed. So this was real time, 34 pages. We extracted 9 objects in no time, right? So for each object with the ID, that of course you cannot modify, and with the body, with the text that is coming after it. So things like system will or temperature warrior shall, like this, TW shall, are the items that the tool has identified, right? So similarly to the previous case, you can save or not, or you can do whatever you want. So let's move into the last example, which is a real document as well, coming from, in this case, from the European Space Commission. So this document is not including a explicit ID. The only thing you have is this ABCD, right? So these ABCD are 4 different requirements because each one of them is atomic with the shall, with the name of a system or whatever, right? So in this case, I want to provide a kind of a special ID, which is not in sequence and it is not explicit, which is I want to use the name of or the number of the section plus the ABCD that I was showing you. And I also want the tool to capture the other additional attributes like nodes, right? So in this case, as I said, we are using an external DLL that we have built. We can build these DLLs in no time as well. And now the parsing is also real time, 38 pages, 89 objects detected. And the ID that we have selected for each one of these items is what you can see in this column, Visual Work Product ID, which is the name of the section plus the letter A, B, C, D, whatever, right? So this has been the parsing in no time. Once we have parsed, whatever operation you can think of is ready for you, including, for instance, the option of adding additional attributes to the view. So grant me full access, so that I can save or I can modify the view. And I will be modifying the view by adding an additional column, which is based on an attribute, which is node 1. So this is the full list of possible attributes that you can include in your view. But in this, for this particular example, as I said, I will focus on node, which is coming from the document, so that you can see that for those requirements, having a node in the following paragraph close to the requirement, the node has been extracted from the requirement and is included in our repository. So that's all for the video, and that's all for my webinar. Now it is your turn. You can use the question section to ask your questions. In the meantime, so the results of the poll are very similar to what we had before. I analyzed the quality of the requirements, is the option which is winning, together with deriving your own requirements and trace those requirements to the items, to the requirements that you have extracted, right? So a kind reminder, while you write down your questions, a kind reminder to keep and follow us in the next episode. Episode number 4 will be on March 14th and March 16th, in 2 weeks from now. And then the topic of this 4th episode will be how to manage attributes. You have seen a little bit today how we had added one more attribute to the view, but you will find more details about this in our next episode. So questions, I don't know, today I have Jose helping me in the webinar. So hello, Jose, do we have any questions so far?
Hello, hi everyone. Yes, indeed, we have one question in the chat. It is, what if I'm provided with a new version of my document? Do you have to reparse again?
This is changes are something natural in life, and the life for systems engineer is like this, is based on changes. Yes, if you are given another document with another version, for the system, it will be another document. But whenever you connect, the tool will detect that, or if you link these 2 documents together, the first thing that you will see whenever you connect to the second version of this document is that the tool will show you a kind of diff screen, right, where you can see the differences. Okay, in this after the parsing of the second document, what you have are 2 new requirements that were not in the first one, and this is the same requirement as in the first one, because it is having the same ID, but it is having a different text, so it has been modified. So all this is shown in a nice way in a kind of diff window.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe we have no further questions, but I will attach here your email address if that's fine.
Mhm.
For everyone to be able to just ask any question that they might pop up with after the session.
Great. So thank you for following us. Don't hesitate. The registration for the fourth episode is already open, so you can go to our website and keep following us in this series of 10 episodes. So thank you very much. Bye for now.